it's enough that we talk about our dilemmas and problems among ourselves. It's important for us to have more of a civic engagement within the communities that we live in, and kind of let them know who we are and what we go through and how resilient we are. This is what's amazing about the Assyrians, our resilience and our will to fight and stand for truth, for truth.
Shlama and Shlomo, everyone, and welcome to episode number 111 of the Assyrian podcast with Dr. Ramina Jajoo-Frindrich. Dr. Jajoo-Frindrich is a retired rheumatologist residing in Phoenix, and for the past 15 years, she has been a partner at Arizona Arthritis and Rheumatology Associates, which is also Arizona's largest rheumatology practice. She is also part-owned and conducted numerous research studies at Arizona Arthritis and Rheumatology Research. Not only will you get to hear about Dr. Jajoo's medical background, but you will also learn about her work within the Assyrian community. And just to give you a quick background, Dr. Jajoo was the medical editor of the Assyrian Star magazine, and she also volunteered, taught, and ran St. Peter Assyrian Academy at St. Peter Assyrian Church of the East in Glendale, Arizona for several years. Her scope of work has also included producing pieces for various Assyrian media, publishing articles, and currently serving as a strategic consultant and chairwoman of Seyfo Center, Arizona chapter, where she and her team worked tirelessly to help pass the Assyrian Genocide Remembrance Day Proclamation in the House of Representatives for the state of Arizona. The Seyfo Center has been doing remarkable work in Arizona and worldwide to bring awareness to the Assyrian genocide, and in this episode, you'll hear more about their projects. I highly encourage you to look into the work that they do. And this August 7th, which is Assyrian Martyrs' Day, let us commit ourselves to remembering the atrocities against Assyrians and the lives lost so that we can work towards a future that not only never forgets, but always endures. Before we get into this week's interview, I want to remind you to make sure you subscribe to the podcast, rate and review us wherever you listen to the podcast. Also, if you know someone who should be on the podcast, please reach out to us. You can find more information about nominating future guests on our website. Lastly, the Assyrian podcast is brought to you by Tony Kalagarakos and the Injury Lawyers of Illinois and New York. If you know anyone that's been in a serious accident, please reach out to Tony Kalagarakos. Tony has been recognized as a top 40 lawyer and a rising star by Super Lawyers publication and has obtained multiple multi-million-dollar awards. Tony can be reached at injuryrights.com or at 847-982-9516. And now, here is Dr. Ramina Jajoo-Frindrich. Dr. Ramina, thank you very much for joining us on the Assyrian podcast. I know during this time we are both living in Arizona, but however, just for COVID-19 precautions, we are doing this interview virtually. So thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to meet with us.
Thank you so much, Ninarta. I'm honored, and it's my pleasure to be on Assyrian podcast. I've been so looking forward to this interview, and I have my cup of coffee here, and I'm good to go. So thank you for this opportunity, and hello to everybody.
So let's go ahead and get started. Dr. Ramina, if you wouldn't mind just telling us, where were you born? How was your childhood growing up? And we'll start off from there.
Sounds good. So I was born in Tehran, Iran. I was born to Assyrian parents, David and Shamiran Jajoo, and I was born in Tehran. And I grew up in Tehran, Iran, till I was 16 years old. And then at the age of 16, I moved to Australia. I also, of course, had my younger brother with me, and my grandmother. We all moved to Australia, which we'll get into that story in a little bit. But in Australia, I finished high school, and then I went to medical school. From there, I moved to, in 1996, I moved to United States. Okay. And I've been here since 1996, so 24 years. So in a nutshell, I'm both Australian and American, but now I have to say I'm a little bit more American than Australian, but 100% Assyrian.
There you go. Amen to that. So you remember growing up in Tehran. So you said you left when you were 16. So how was it like living there, and why did you and your family decide to leave?
I remember when I was about 10 years old. Now I'm really giving away my age. About 10 years old, around 1977, 78. The Islamic Revolution took place in Tehran, well, in Iran, and the schools closed for about a year. And I used to attend this Assyrian school. Maybe you guys have heard of it. It was called Madrashat Shushan, or Madrasa Susan in Farsi,
Mhm.
or Susan School in English, right? And the school had to close. It was a co-ed Assyrian school. Wonderful, wonderful place to be at. It was under the leadership of Mrs. Gracie Atanus, amazing, amazing principal. But the school closed, and the revolution took place, and life became gradually more difficult for Christian minorities. Even Jewish minorities, Baha'is. Baha'is were being actively persecuted. Our neighbors went missing. Our pediatricians, I remember our pediatrician, I believe he was Jewish, and I think he had some issues with his clinic being raided by the military guard, moral guards. They would call them pastar.
Wow.
So life became gradually more difficult. The country became more radical in some ways, and strict Islamic rules were being implemented in schools. And then the war between Iran and Iraq broke out. We had to kind of live through the war for about, I don't know, 5-6 years. And my younger brother was approaching the military age. I'm not sure whether it was 16 or 18, and at the time. So my family decided that there wasn't much of a future for us there. Students who were already enrolled in university, if they were a Christian, they were not let back in, or they had to take Islamic studies to qualify for university. So the future looked really bleak. So we reached out to some of our distant relatives in Australia, and thankfully they sponsored us. And so we ended up in Australia on a tourist visa. And the minute we got there, we said, wait a minute, we're not really tourists. We're not here to just stay for 2 months. Can you please give us a home? So we changed our status. We applied for a change in status, and within a year, our entire family were accepted. And I think within 2 years, we became Australian citizens.
The rest of your teens and college years were in Australia. What was that like? I mean, I know you went to medical school, so kind of guide us through that route and how you decided to make that decision to go into medical school.
Okay, so when we got to Australia, I was 16, and my brother was, I believe he was 11. It was really tough because we didn't speak much English. My dad did, because he had worked with Americans and the British back in Iran. He was in banking. My mother mostly was a homemaker, so she didn't speak a whole lot of English either. We weren't completely illiterate, but we just knew very basic sentences. So we went to English as second language classes with other immigrants, and there were immigrants from Middle East, from Asia, from Israel, so all kinds of interesting kids our age were in ESL class for 3 months, and then I was placed in good old Fairfield High School. So for those people who are not familiar with Sydney, Fairfield was the Assyrian hub. It still is, right? It's Little Assyria. That's what they should call it. And that was so nice, because I actually found some of my old friends from Madrashat Shushan from back in Tehran.
That's
so
awesome.
They kind of helped me out. It really was. It really was. It made the transition a little bit easier. I think I joined in 10th grade. And then finally I graduated from high school, and I had no idea what I was going to do. But I knew that I wasn't very good at language arts, English being my third language. The humanities line of education wasn't for me. And I loved science. So really, I chose medicine by default. It was a process of elimination. And I remember when I told my parents that I want to try for medical school, my mother almost had a panic attack. She said, you know how hard that is to get into. And I said, I'm going to give it a try. We'll see what happens. So I got into medical school at University of New South Wales in 1988. And it was a 6-year course. Of course, it was difficult. I was still using my dictionary quite a bit throughout medical school. And I was devastated because the year I joined medical school in Norta, they changed the degree from a 5-year degree to a 6-year degree. And I was just devastated. I thought this is
One whole
bad.
year.
I thought I'm going to be an old maid by the time I graduate. So anyway, but the saving grace was that they added an additional degree. So I got 3 degrees there. They're Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Medicine, and Bachelor of Surgery. And then I graduated from medical school, and then I did my internship, a little bit of internship and some residency.
I was reading somewhere that you were the first Assyrian to go to medical school in Australia.
That's the rumor I heard at the time. Okay. And yes, and back in the 80s, the Assyrian community in Australia was relatively new. I think the community dates back to the 60s, maybe 50s, 1950s. But it was really after the Iran-Iraq war where the main migration started. So it was still a fairly new community. And also bear in mind, we really didn't have social media or internet or any way of knowing for a fact whether Ramina was the first Assyrian ever to enter medical school. I'm sure that, I honestly don't know, but that's what I was told. So I took it and ran with it.
There you go.
But of course, if somebody wants to challenge it, I would gladly give up that claim. And since then, fortunately, there have been more Assyrian students that have entered, I believe, medical school. And then some foreign medical graduates also have gone to Australia and established very successful medical practices in geriatrics, in surgery, primary care. The Assyrian community in Australia has come a long way, and they are thriving. They're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all other regions, all countries should look up to their establishments of the schools, the colleges, pretty much everything.
That's right. 100%. And I still go back to Norta. I go back and visit my family there, and it's always so much fun. I love them to pieces, and it's just every time I go there, I get energized and I become more interested in my community. And I see, us living in Arizona, I see that similar growth in the Assyrian community in Arizona. And we're on the right path here. It's really something to be proud of.
That's great to hear. That is really great to hear. So you went to medical school. What was your what did you choose to focus on in medical school?
Back in medical school, I really loved anatomy. And but I very, very early on, I have to tell you a funny story. Very early on, I found out that I can't be a surgeon because when I was in my final year of medical school, I was actually doing a surgical rotation for the first time. And I got into an operating room. I was all covered up with gowns and masks, and the operation was an ingrown toenail. And as soon as the surgeon cut into it, I passed out. So I knew early on I couldn't be a surgeon, but I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Okay, so scratch that off.
Yes, scratch that out. Anyway, so I finished school, and when I did my internship, I was more interested in primary care.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked as a primary care physician part-time at the same time as I was doing my later on residency in Australia. And then life brought me to United States in 96. I took all of my exams. They're called the United States Medical Licensing Exam, USMLEs. There were 3 exams that I had to pass. And I ended up in Connecticut for internship. So I had to do the internship again in Connecticut in internal medicine. Long story short, I spent some time in Connecticut and then New Jersey and then back in Connecticut. And during that time, lo and behold, I met my husband, Carl. He was a year behind in training. We're both the same age, but he was a year behind. And he always tells this funny story how I pursued him, but no, it was really the other way around. Anyway, we ended up getting engaged, and we got married in the Assyrian Church of the East Church in Connecticut. And I forget what it was called, but we were married by Father Gabriel, Kashai Gebi. And we also had an American priest. So we had 2 priests marry us. Father, I think his name was Father Jim Crawley. So we got married in Connecticut and we moved to Boston. And in Boston, my husband started his specialty training in anesthesiology at Brigham and Women's Hospital. But I wanted to do internal medicine, primary care, and the group that I joined, the day I arrived there, they told me that their intensive care unit specialist had basically left that position. So they didn't have an ICU doctor. So imagine being a freshly trained internist and you want to go into primary care, but instead you end up running the intensive care unit at a hospital.
Wow.
It was pretty stressful. And I just couldn't do it. It wasn't my cup of tea. It turned me off internal medicine too. So my husband said, Ramina, you've always liked anatomy. You've liked rheumatology. So why don't you apply for rheumatology fellowship? And by the time I applied, really all of the positions were taken. And we're talking about Boston. Boston is the mecca of medicine. There are a lot of fellowship training positions there if you apply on time. But I was so late that the only hospital that hadn't filled its position, or they had, but then the person who took the position changed their mind, was New England Medical Center, Tufts New England Medical Center. Oh. So I applied and I got it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a pretty amazing program. I got to work with some really intelligent, smart doctors for 3 years. I worked with Dr. Bess Dawson-Hughes, who is involved with USDA. Also, Dr. Alan Steer, who was the person who discovered Lyme disease. So we had a lot of referrals for Lyme disease. So it was just fascinating. And then we finished up in Boston and came to Connecticut. No, sorry, to Phoenix.
Wow. Okay. That's awesome. I had read somewhere that you were in some different trial studies, that you led some different studies with rheumatology. Was that during your time in Boston or here in Phoenix?
That was when I was in Boston, because when you do fellowship, you're required to do research. And if you can, if your research is good enough, it gets published. So I was doing my research with Dr. Bess Dawson-Hughes on the effects of diet on bone density and the calcium and the protein balances. And in the long run, it would have connected to osteoporosis. The impact on osteoporosis, whether we eat more vegetables, is that good for prevention of osteoporosis, or whether we should be eating more protein, like animal proteins. So it was an interesting study, and I think it was published in the Journal of Endocrinology. It's been so long now. We moved here in 2004. So I got a publication out of it, but I knew that I didn't want to be in academics. I always wanted to see patients, and was very passionate about rheumatology. And for there are people who don't know what rheumatology is, if I could just expand a little bit.
Absolutely, yes. I was just going to ask that.
So rheumatology is the study of immune system, rare autoimmune diseases, and the musculoskeletal system of the body, right?
Mhm.
So our focus is on bone and joint diseases, different types of arthritis, different types of muscle diseases, and generally these are conditions that can affect multiple organs. So they're not just limited to bone and joints. They can affect the internal organs as well. So they can be, if not treated, they can be life-threatening. And they can be pretty complex. So usually when a patient ends up seeing a rheumatologist, it's because they've seen multiple other specialties and they can't figure out what's going on. And they come to us and we diagnose them with the autoimmune diseases, like some people might have heard the word lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, psoriatic arthritis, vasculitis, encephalitis. These are different types of inflammatory conditions in the body.
Got it.
So it is just fascinating, and there's been so much research into these conditions and so much progress in terms of treatment.
Wow, that's really
Yeah,
fascinating. That's interesting. So during your
yeah.
time, I didn't mention this before when we were going over your time in Australia, but were you, I know you're very involved in the Assyrian community here in Arizona. Were you as involved in when you were in Tehran, in Australia, in Boston, Connecticut, all these other places that you've lived?
Back in Iran, I was just a kid, and we were in a different situation. We were in war. We were scared, but my parents always instilled this love for Assyrians, love for my community. So that was there, and they back in Madrasa Shushan, they really taught us Assyrian really well, and we could read and write. Majority of the kids that graduated from that school, and at some point there were maybe 1,000 students enrolled, they could read and write in Assyrian fluently. So that instilled that love for Assyrians back then. When I went to Australia, because of the transition, I wasn't able to be as involved, right? Because I was in medical school, I would have to spend 3 hours a day commuting back and forth to the university. So it was really difficult. But we were always attending church and going to parties and gatherings. And the same thing happened when I came to the States. But even though I wasn't as involved, but I always sought the Assyrian communities where I lived. So I found the Assyrian community in Connecticut. Then we went to Boston. I found the Assyrian community in Worcester, Massachusetts. There's a small, very tight-knit community. Are you familiar with them?
Yes, yes.
Awesome people, and I love them. And I ended up being neighbors with one of my closest friends from Tehran. Her name is Dr. Nika Danyal. She's currently, I believe she's an assistant professor at Harvard. True gem. So we were neighbors, friends for 4 years. I got to meet Dr. Eden Nabi. I don't know, a lot of people know about her, an amazing woman. And she kind of recruited me to be the health correspondent for Assyrian Star magazine, Chokot Atur. And I have a few of these magazines right here in front of me just to jog my memory. And my job was to write a brief article on any medical condition or recruit physicians that would write the health corner. So, in front of me, I'm holding the issue from summer of 2003 that, listen to how relevant this is. This was written by Dr. Rahman Solkha, medical doctor. And he was the director of Division of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center in New York. He was also at the time assistant professor of clinical psychiatry at the Columbia University College of Physicians and Surgeons. And the topic he wrote about was post-traumatic stress disorder and learned helplessness in the Assyrian community. How amazing is that? It was a short article, but we had some really good topics to write about until I came to Phoenix, because as we figured, we're tired of shoveling snow in Boston, so let's find the hottest city. Find the hottest city with a decent sized Assyrian community. So we came to Phoenix.
On Sunday, we were talking, and you mentioned that you were part of the Australian Student Association or Academic Association in Australia.
And Ninurta, I was briefly involved in founding that organization, but really I didn't play a major role. And I'll tell you why. When I was in medical school, the Assyrian Australian Association, which is an amazing organization in Australia, and I think they're still around, decided to offer scholarships to Assyrian students who enter universities. So back then, I think the first prize was $600. So I was awarded the $600, and it was a lot of money. I was so happy because we were refugees and didn't have a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
But it was just so inspiring. And then the scholarship was in the name of a Assyrian author by the name Rabbi Nimrod Simono. It was called Rabbi Nimrod Simono Scholarship. And it was awarded annually to students for the duration of their degree. So if it was a 3-year degree, they would get it 3 years in a row. Mine was a 6-year degree, so I was lucky. I got it for 6 years. They were so kind. They were so kind. But of course, we were expected to, pay it forward, and as we should always. And that was their investment in the youth. And the other nice thing about it was that we were asked to write to Rabbi Nimrod Simono, to write to him, because he used to live in Iran. And he was so appreciative. And I would attempt at writing in Assyrian. So I wrote my letters in Assyrian to him. So he would answer them, and then he would have another page of corrections. Believe it or not, my parents still kept those letters as mementos. It's amazing.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's how because of this association, the college students kind of started getting together, and they thought, hey, this is a good idea for us to have actually like a student association, just like we have here in Arizona. We have the Assyrian Student Association. I was briefly involved. The president was this friend by the name Edson Ishu. He still lives in Australia, I believe. And then more qualified people took over, like Miss Susie David and her brother, Mr. Fred David. And I don't remember everybody, some other friend, Asiat David. They took over, and they really made it into what it is today. And they changed the name to the Assyrian Australian Academic Society. I believe that's what it's called. Yes. And they're still very active.
Perfect.
Yes.
Wow. So let's jump into your work here in Arizona. You are the St. Peter's Assyrian Church School director. So tell us about how you got involved with that, and what was your role in that, and what changes you implemented in the Sunday school program.
This Assyrian school was really the apple of my eye. I was so proud of it, and I'm still very proud of it. So when I came here in 2004, I was pregnant with my son, Adam. He was born here in Scottsdale. And we had one church, the Assyrian Church of the East, had one church, if you remember, in North, I think was in Glendale on Dunlap and 35th Avenue. When I arrived, that church had, the community had outgrown the church. So they needed a bigger location. So we relocated to a larger location, the St. Peter Cathedral, which is on 63rd and Bell, right?
63rd, yeah.
63rd and Bell in Glendale. And that church came with a school building. It had 9 classes. And it also came with a cry room, which was such a blessing, except that my 3-year-old boy wouldn't sit still in the cry room.
I don't think any 2, 3, 4-year-old will sit in the cry room.
He was so energetic, Ninorta. He still is. So I talked to my friend and I said, could I please put him in Sunday school in the classes? She said, well, he's young, but
Yeah.
if you want to, you have to sit with him and volunteer. So that's how I started in Sunday school as a volunteer. Then I kind of became promoted to the teacher's aide. And then I became a teacher very briefly. And then a few years into it, this was in 2011, the school building was rented out to a charter school for a year.
Oh.
And at the same time, the director of the school retired. So we didn't want the kids to disperse and we didn't want to lose the Sunday school. So I offered to run the school, Rabbi Kasha Andu's blessing and Marapram's blessing, to run the school, but only temporarily until they find somebody, because I did not see myself qualified to do it. So we held classes in the church cafeteria in the hall for a year. And then the charter school moved somewhere else. So we got the building back. And then we just worked on the school and we tried to make it better, implemented a lot of different things, different curriculum, website, annual functions. I could go into a detail, but it would take forever. Talent shows, bringing academics or businessmen, entrepreneurs, artists as career day guests. And the beauty of it was that we got better every year, and the school grew from, I believe, 87 students to about 180 something, 183 students.
Wow.
Yeah, we were holding classes. We changed the name of the school to St. Peter Assyrian Academy. And we went from about 5 or 6 teachers to a total of 16 teachers and teachers' aides, IT staff, a teacher's assistant, assistant principal, and I was the principal. So we grew and we progressed, and I did that for about 6 years. And I had to, for other reasons, personal reasons, I had to stop doing that because my work schedule just got too hectic. Deacon Sam Abraham took over, and he's been doing a fabulous job. And now they have a library with over 70 Assyrian books. The curriculum has been continued, and they've become far more technology savvy. So they do things far more efficiently than I used to do it. And the whole story of this Sunday school was summarized and written about by Dr. Madeline Davis Murat Khan in her periodical, which I think it's a quarterly actually, that comes out online. It's an amazing publication. It's called Rays of Literature, or Simchat Saprayuta. It's in Assyrian. And a whole article was written about just our little Sunday school in Phoenix, Arizona. Ninorta, what was amazing was that I felt at the time that maybe I could bring something to the school and really help transform it. And that happened with the help of the clergy and with the help of the parents. Really, the parents were so supportive, and with the help of the teachers. But what really was more important to me was my own spiritual transformation. And that is a whole nother session we can talk about, but it was just amazing that, how I found salvation and I accepted Jesus as my savior. And it was just truly amazing. And it continues to be amazing.
Wow.
And I'm very happy for the school and how it's being run right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I go to church on Sundays and I see the kids come in and they're all dressed in their uniforms and it's like a military, which is really awesome. I do have a question that came in from one of our listeners, and they're asking, what's a successful model for starting a fully operational Assyrian school in the U.S.? Something similar to Armenian school or Hebrew school?
It's a good one. To be quite honest, Ninorta, I really don't know. I had heard that A charter school has been started, and it's been running up really well operationally in Detroit, right? It's Keys Grace
Yes,
School.
that's correct.
I'm not in contact with them. And running a charter school starting it and running it is a very different story to running a Sunday school or Bible study classes. These are two different processes. That's something that's way beyond my pay grade. I don't know, but it's clearly being done. And my understanding when I was reading about Keys Grace School is that it took people 8 years of planning to get there, 7 or 8 years. I wish I had a good answer, but it's definitely something that we need.
We did have a podcast interview with the founder of Keys Grace Academy. It was episode number 14 with Nathan Kalasho. So if anybody wants to look that up, they can listen to that about the charter school in Detroit. A couple of episodes ago, we did have Ashur Swarishu on the podcast. I don't know if you listened to that episode or not, but he is from Hamilton, Ontario, in Canada, and he runs the Sunday. He helps run the Sunday school there as well. And what he was saying that of their structure is they go to church, like they have their every Sunday once a week. It's from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. So they do the church, they go through the Raza. So let's say 9 to 12, and then from 12 to 3, it's Assyrian class. What are your thoughts on that process versus the what a lot of churches here in the U.S. do is the parents go to the Raza from 9
Mhm.
till 11. The kids are in the class, and then the kids will come in and take qurbana and then go home.
You could argue it both ways, right? There are merits to both ways. I think that our kids need to learn to sit through Mass and have that discipline to listen to the priest preaching, what they're teaching. I think they really need that discipline. And it is discipline. Call it discipline or meditation. I think that's a good thing. On the other hand, when it's in a school format, and I had tried that when I was running the school,
Mhm.
we would take the kids to mass once a month, one Sunday
Mhm.
a month. They would sit through mass, but imagine 180 kids trying to be kind of control them using 16 teachers. It
Wow.
was a little bit disruptive to mass, right? But it was also inspiring because people got to see the kids come in their uniforms and their little scarves and trying to, behave, be their best, and sit down and listen. And I don't think at that point any that many churches had that many kids present on any given Sunday. It was just inspiring for everybody to see these kids. And when there are kids in church, there's going to be noise. You can't control it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, you can argue really, Ninoto. I think you can argue it both ways. It really depends on what's required by the clergy, how they
Mhm.
want to run the school. That's first and foremost, and then what the parents need. And I'm sure every community is slightly different.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. I think either way works, whichever works for that community. So let's go into your role with Seyfo Center. If you can tell us what Seyfo Center is and what your role is in Arizona here.
So Seyfo Center, the word Seyfo, as you know, is Assyrian for, the Western dialect Assyrian for Sepa, which is sword. And Seyfo Center is really Assyrian Genocide Research Center. It was established by Malfono Sabri Atman in Europe about, I believe, over 2 decades ago.
Mhm.
And his focus is basically publishing books on Assyrian genocide, various Assyrian genocides. Unfortunately, we have a lot of them. It's not just one or two.
Mhm.
Giving lectures, raising awareness, and then doing a little bit of lobbying also on the state level in
Mhm.
different states. And the Arizona chapter really has been around for quite a few years. I joined it about just over 2 years ago.
Mhm.
As Mrs. Shmoni Yonadam, who's the president of the Assyrian Cultural Organization in Arizona. She was the founder of the Arizona chapter, and she was the chairwoman. And I joined 2 years ago, and we started talking about having doing some work here, and basically just helping raise awareness on what our people are going through currently and in the past. So our focus is basically genocide recognition. And if you want, I can go into more detail as to what we've been doing over the past couple of years.
Yes, I would love for you to go into detail on that. So, for example, the Genocide Awareness Week at Scottsdale Community College.
Scottsdale Community College.
At Scottsdale Community College every year, which is awesome that we are kind of a whole week is dedicated to Assyrian Genocide Awareness Week, and we have guest speakers that come in, and your audience isn't just Assyrian. It's college students. It's locals here in Arizona. So that's very interesting. I'd love for you to talk about that, and then also the proclamation that just came out, HRC 2006, the Assyrian Genocide Remembrance Day proclamation in Arizona.
Okay, so let's talk about the Scottsdale Community College Genocide Awareness Week. This is a huge program that's held annually, I believe, for the past 6 to 7 years. The person who puts it together is Dr. John Lifferton, and this is an annual meeting and a series of lectures, and people from different nationalities with different backgrounds, they come and present and talk about their experience with genocide. And really, it is the largest genocide symposium in Northern America. This is huge. This is huge. We have Jewish community, we have Armenian community, Greeks, Serbians, people from Africa, all kinds of people attend. And I have to take my hat off to the cultural organization. They were the ones who spearheaded the Assyrian community involvement and representation. And they had brought really amazing Assyrian speakers. I can think of a few, Nadia Yonan, PhD candidate, and for example, Dr. Nicholas Algilu, PhD candidate, Joseph Hermes, just to name a few. And Seyfo Center as Seyfo Center kind of took more shape, we became a little bit more active in terms of helping sponsoring speakers or recruiting speakers. And I believe Assyrian Student Association is also becoming more active. So these are the three major sponsoring organizations. And last year we were able to ask for more hours. So we increased the allotted time from 2 hours to 3 hours for this year for 2020 speakers, but unfortunately because of coronavirus, it was canceled. But we're rescheduling for April of next year. So I want people to be cognizant of this. These are, depending on who the speaker is, the lectures are broadcast on social media. And usually we have a very good turnout, but you're right, the audience are non-Assyrian, and that is our target audience, because it's enough that we talk about our dilemmas and problems among ourselves. It's important for us to have more of a civic engagement within the communities that we live in, and kind of let them know who we are and what we go through and how resilient we are. This is what's amazing about the Assyrians, our resilience and our will to fight and stand for truth. So Proclamation, again, going back to the work that's done by Sabri Atman and his team in California, worked on genocide recognition. Last year, he put the literature together by working with various scholars, to name a few, Professor Hannibal Travis, who's a genocide expert. And he was able to put this proclamation together and the supportive documentation behind it, which is very strong. And it passed in September of last year at the California Assembly. So there was recognition and affirmation that this genocide of 1915 and the Semele massacre took place. And they recognized August 7th as the Assyrian Genocide Remembrance Day. So when he was here in September of last year, he said, look, since this passed in California, let's focus on this and see if we can work on it here in Arizona. So really our work is based off of what he did and the wonderful, wonderful people, Assyrians in California. We really have to take our hats off to them because they made it easy. They worked on it for 2 years. We only worked on it for 6 months. It was an intense 6 months. We had to kind of get a few different representatives and senator on board. So it did pass as a proclamation, as a unanimous proclamation, not the type of resolution that you vote on because it wasn't contested by anybody. It passed in the House of Representatives, so they recognized August 7th as the Assyrian Genocide Remembrance Day in the state of Arizona. And the reason they recognized it is because of the recognition of the 1915 genocide. Unfortunately, the Semele massacre was left out. We don't know why. We wrote to them, we met with them, and by then, it was too late to change it. So they decided to go ahead with it in the House as is, but they have informed us that they have every intention of adding Semele back into the verbiage and acknowledge that. And hopefully at the next legislative session, which will be in January of 2021, we will have it acknowledged again, both, the 1915 genocide again and Semele added. And this is just such a wonderful news for our community. And if I may just explain to people what the difference is between a bill and a proclamation or a resolution. A bill comes with an action, which means that, for example, if you decide on an action or something that needs to be executed, that's a bill, that becomes the law. But resolutions and proclamations are affirmation, their acceptance or acknowledging that an event happened in the history. And it's a way for us as a community to keep a dialogue going with our state officials. And because this is still an open wound, we will continue communicating with them and letting them know what our needs are. And then we can build on it from there. And the sky is the limit as far as I'm concerned, so long as the good Lord is blessing us. And we are working righteously and with integrity. We will continue working. We have the support of the community. I cannot emphasize how supportive the community has been here in Arizona and also from abroad in terms of writing thank you letters to the representatives, writing call to action letters, responding to our surveys when we ask them to, sharing our announcements. I mean, we're just so blessed. We cannot be more thankful, and we have to be thankful to you too, Ninarta, for being our MC at our most recent event. You did a fabulous job.
It was an honor to be there. I mean, and just for our listeners that weren't aware, so we did have a meet and greet with the legislators and Senate leaders that in the House of Representatives that passed the bill, that helped to pass the bill. So that was a great opportunity to be able to meet with them and hear their concerns, because they are supporting us and they are with us and they are very eager to continue to work with us in the future, which is very, very positive. And lobbying is very difficult to do. So my hat is off to you, Dr. Ramina, and the Seyfo Center team here in Arizona to do that work on behalf of the Assyrian people in Arizona, because without you guys going in, meeting with the representatives, explaining what the genocide is, what we've been through. So thank you for your continuous work and efforts in that as well.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me.
So Dr. Ramina, you mentioned that you met with lobbyists and did a lot of work to kind of get this proclamation to pass. For those listeners out there in different states that want to do the same thing, issue a proclamation, Assyrian Genocide Remembrance Day in their states, what did you do that you can help them kind of guide them into those steps in terms of meeting with congressmen, senators, things like that?
Yes. Well, Ninurta, here's the thing. I think if anybody's interested to do this in another state, please let us know and reach out to us. You can email us and just message us. We have a very large email list. So our updates go out very regularly. So watch out for those. If you're interested, please respond and we'll get back to you. How about I give them my own email? It's rjajoo, RJAJOO at seyfocenteraz.com. Yeah.
Okay.
So they can email us and we would be more than happy to walk them through. We would be more than happy to provide them with the literature, because the literature that we give is good. It needs to be something solid. If it hasn't been thought through, I mean, it took 2 years for Sabri to put it together. So we can provide the material for them. And then what they need to do is to go ahead and look up who their representative, state representative, and state senator is. So they need to find out which legislative district they live in. And this is the sticky part. They need to call and call and call and call until they get an answer. Once they get an answer, they ask for an interview, and we can prepare them. We can even prepare them how to present it, what the question is, what are the requirements are, what does the community, let's say, what is the community in Massachusetts, what do they want? Why do they want this? And just keep the line of communication open. In talking to representatives, this is what I learned, right? Because I've never done this before, and I was an amateur, and I still am an amateur, but only by the grace of God we were able to do this. The key thing is persistence, because if you give up after a couple of emails or you give up after a few phone calls, it's giving up too easily. As far as I'm concerned, it took, I lost count of number of emails that we've written. So persistence is important, because the state representatives, they have so many questions thrown at them. They get so many emails, and some of them are so, in my opinion, some of them are so unimportant. So they get bombarded with questions and requests, and we need somebody who's persistent. And then take it from there. And we can coach them. We can coach our fellow Assyrians if they work with other organizations. I mean, we have similar proclamations that are being worked on in Hawaii and let's say Massachusetts, but we're doing it in collaboration with either individuals or organizations.
Yeah.
And the more states in the United States recognize the genocide, the better chance that we will have that it will also be recognized on the federal level, right? Just like the Armenians, how the Armenians did it. And the Armenian genocide has been recognized in the forms of proclamation. For example, let's take state of California. It's been recognized at least 15 to 20 times, like every other year. It gets recognized by the Senate, by the Assembly, and by the governor.
Is this something that you have to reapply or redo every single year or every session?
So it doesn't expire. Expire. But it's that what I'm emphasizing is that it gets passed every year. It gets talked about, so it stays fresh in the minds of our representatives, and that's a good thing. And I think that we should do the same.
Yes. And I mean, the proclamation, the wording, you mentioned the wording, and it's not something that I typed up or you typed up. It's been reviewed by several lawyers, several, organization heads, multiple people to say, okay, that maybe this word is not right. Maybe we should use this word. So it's a lot of tedious, meticulous work on your end for Seyfo Center to help out anybody else that wants to do the same thing in their state.
Correct. That is so right, Ninorta. And even the California proclamation was slightly tweaked for Arizona, right? Of course, we need to change the verbiage from California State Assembly to State of Arizona. But other than that, we go into details like, how do we say that our community, the Assyrian community, does comprise of the Assyrians who identify themselves as Chaldeans and Syriacs. So we need to be inclusive of those people who do identify as Assyrians, though they may use different words to describe themselves. So, and that's where it gets sticky. And I don't know if there is a right answer or wrong answer, and people can debate that. We have that discussion going on in our own community. But things like that, I really think things like that should not hold us back.
Yeah.
Because if we don't like the verbiage one year, we can work on it the next year, 2 years from now. If the state won't pass, if the Senate won't pass it, maybe we can talk to the governor. So it's very fluid. It's not all or none, yes or no, black and white. It's very fluid. And who's working on this, they need to be able to work within that kind of environment. Because if you take a very hard stance, it may get rejected.
Yeah.
So we need to keep that dialogue open.
And I think one thing you mentioned is building a relationship with the state representatives and the governors and of those areas that you are living in, because it's very important to keep that open dialogue. I think the relationship that the Assyrian community here has with the representatives like Nancy Bardo, Jennifer Germain, Frank Carroll, Senate Majority Leader Rick Gray, those individuals are very, very important to us, and we have very close relationships with them. So that's very important. And I do want to also stress the importance of when you do meet with the state representatives, you're saying, I'm representing the Assyrian community here in, let's say, Texas. And then, okay, how many Assyrians are in Texas? So that's when the census is very, very important as well. And I know you mentioned those Assyrians that identify as Chaldean or Syriac, and it is okay to write in Assyrian or Chaldean or Syriac when you are filling out the census, because this helps us when you are meeting with your state representatives and pleading your case to them and saying, hey, there's over 200,000 Assyrians in Chicago or whatever area it is, and we're not just making up a number, it's a fact. You can look it up in the census. So
yeah. Absolutely. I couldn't have put it better myself. Census is absolutely vital to the work that Seyfo Center does. That's the first question they ask. How many Assyrians live in Arizona?
Really? Okay, good.
Oh yeah. How many live in Arizona? Where do they live? Where are they concentrated? What is it that they want? What are they going through? In fact, we have a whole survey right now. Seyfo Center Arizona chapter has a whole survey on that hopefully it should be published in the next couple of months. But please, everybody, yes, do fill out the census. It'll be filled. No matter what, you're going to be counted.
Yeah,
you might as well be counted correctly.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to come to you eventually, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
Perfect. The final question to all of our podcast listeners: what is one thing that you would say to all of our listeners, and we have listeners worldwide?
Ninarta, I would like to just give one quick message to our community out there. I want to tell them to keep the fight going and not to give up. And particularly, my message is to the young generation of Assyrians that are growing up here in U.S. And I hate to say it, but it's really a self-imposed exile, right? We're in exile because we're not in our homeland. Some people say we live in diaspora, but I think of it as exile because we had to leave our homeland. We had to leave our country. So for those of you who grow up here, I want to thank you. You guys are amazing. You have a very different outlook on life, and you guys are fearless. That's what I love about the youth growing up in America, in Australia, in Canada, in diaspora. You guys are fearless. And our role as the older generation is to just be your safety net. We need to let you guys do what you do best, and then be there for you in case you need us, and be your safety net and not hold you back. I see that a little bit happening in our community. I've seen it in Australia. I've seen it here in Arizona. But keep at it. Wonderful. Best megano hondasi maraba.
Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Assyrian podcast. Please make sure to subscribe on whatever platform you use, and don't forget to share, rate, and review us. See you next Tuesday.